Good morning. So yesterday, Digital Foundry and Eurogamer came out and dropped a huge bomb. They gave us the full specs of the Xbox Series X, which you can probably see on screen now, plus a whole load more information. As Richard Leadbetter put it, there's a vast amount of material to share. And he wasn't kidding. Standouts for me start with the CPU, and particularly the speeds. The Zen 2 cores are clocked seriously high at 3.8 GHz or 3.6 GHz with multi-threading or SMT. And Microsoft told Digital Foundry that they expect most developers to work at 3.8 GHz, certainly in the early years of the console, and then maybe they'll transition to the 3.6 with multi-threading later on down the line. And while the clock speeds will be lower, it's estimated that multi-threading could get up to 30% additional performance out of the CPU if the application is, optimized for that. So, that's really exciting. The thing stemming from that, though, is something that interests me is the cooling. And the reason that stands out to me is because it seems to me that Microsoft have designed the whole system from the way the box is shaped through the cooling fan at the top and everything in order to allow these CPU speeds. The Xbox One X used an efficient cooling method to allow the console to perform to its best, but with the Series X, it appears that they've taken it to a whole nother level. And, everything seems to be designed from the ground up to maximize the performance of those Zen 2 cores. The Series X is tiny when you consider the power on offer, and Microsoft have gone all out to cool the machine so as to allow those cores to run at their highest possible clock speeds. And this completely flies in the face of previous generations where consoles were underclocked in an effort to reduce heat. Microsoft seemed to have said, well, okay, it'll produce heat. How do we dissipate that heat? So that's their approach to this. And as I say, that kind of started with the Xbox One X. This idea also extends to the GPU, which isn't going to have a boost clock. It's going to be running at full speed all the time. That means 1.825 gigahertz at all times. And no wonder they needed to come up with a novel cooling solution. I hope the cooling works, because if it doesn't, well, this thing's going to have to be renamed the Xbox Puddle. You'll look up from a gaming session and find a mess of plastic and metal bubbling on the carpet. But here's the thing. I do think it's going to work, because I think Microsoft are determined to make a console as powerful and performant as they possibly can within the constraints of the tech available. And everything here screams that. This is a seriously impressive piece of kit from what I can see, and obviously I'm not like Digital Foundry. I haven't gone and had hands-on with it, and I haven't played the games yet. But from what we've seen and from what's coming out from Digital Foundry and others, this is, well, the way I look at it, Microsoft have looked at everything and tried to squeeze all the performance they possibly can out of this console without it being compromised in terms of throttling and things like that. And talking about impressive engineering, we have to talk about the storage solution as well, because that's something else that stands out for me. Again, it's very impressive. I do have some reservations though. We're only going to get 1 terabyte, and it's going to be a custom SSD, and the loading times look phenomenal. They put some demos up, and things were loading so much faster than they were on the Xbox One X. So the S is considerably faster when it comes to that. But as I say, only 1 terabyte, and we know that the games moving forward are going to be a lot bigger. So we're going to be suffering there. I would have liked to see more, but we already know with the power on offer, these consoles are going to be bloody expensive. So maybe they had to keep it down to 1 terabyte. And in order to alleviate that, they've come up with another novel solution, and that's expandable storage. That little slot we saw on the back of the console when it was first shown to us is basically a slot for the expanded storage or the extendable storage. Now, this is interesting because it's a proprietary solution, so you're going to have to buy these from Microsoft. You're not going to be able to buy any old drive off the shelf. As I say, there are pros and cons to that. The con primarily is going to be price. You're going to have to shell out what they're asking for it. So hopefully they won't overprice them. The flip side of that, though, is that this storage is going to be as fast as the internal drive. So any extra storage that you stick in there is going to be incredibly quick too. Again, we're going to get 1 terabyte. And certainly at launch, the extra storage is going to be a 1 terabyte module. And they're talking about a bigger storage later on down the line. And hopefully we'll see some, like 4 terabytes and stuff like that. And that'd be phenomenal. But again, get up to things like 4 terabytes in a proprietary drive. These drives, even the ones that you can buy now, they're not cheap. So this technology is expensive and it's going to be proprietary. I would think it's going to be quite expensive, but it will give us this extra speed, which we're going to need if we're going to be able to run these games moving forward with all the tech that's on offer. The thing that disappoints me here, though, is that USB drives aren't going to work in the same way that they do now. You can get a USB drive now, plug it in, set it up as expandable storage, and you can actually install your games to the USB drive. That's not going to work in the same way moving forward, and I find that a little bit disappointing. I understand why, though. The reason is that obviously a USB drive is not going to be anywhere near as fast, so it's not going to be able to handle these new games. From what I can tell, though, 360 games and original Xbox games and even Xbox One games, current Xbox One games, should run off USB drives. You should be able to play them off USB drives, but you'll get a performance hit. And it looks like you'll be able to store Series X games on an external USB drive, like a backup. But as I say, you won't be able to run them. And presumably it'll be quicker to install the games from a USB drive than it will be from the net. So it could come in handy. I was hoping for some sort of cache solution where the game is stored on USB but runs from the internal drive, more or less. But, that was probably never on the cards. I don't even know if there's a tech solution for doing that. And you guys are a bit more techy than me. Maybe you'll be able to explain this to me because, like I say, I was hoping to see something like that so I could just plug my USB drive into my new console when it comes out, go out, buy an Xbox Series X, plug in my USB drive, and carry on from where I left off. But it's going to be a bit more complicated than that. And as I say, I do understand that. And it does mean that we're going to get the faster speeds across the board. So, it's a trade-off. Swings and roundabouts. One of the pros we're going to get as a result of these proprietary drives, though, is the new Quick Resume. And this is going to work with multiple titles. And apparently, according to Richard Leadbetter, it actually works. And, we will see in practice because I don't really like the way Quick Resume works on the Xbox currently. But this does look like a whole new way of doing things. And apparently, the game won't even know that, you've stopped playing it. It'll just carry on like like you left off as if you've hit the guide button. I think that's the way Richard Leadbetter described it. If you hit the guide button currently and then you go out of guide and you go back into the game, it carries on. Well, in future, that's how the game's going to see it. When you stop playing, it's just going to be as if you've hit the guide button. And it doesn't matter if you reboot your Xbox or anything. So if this works, and, I always take these things with a little bit of a pinch of salt because they sometimes don't work as well as they're advertised. But if it does work as advertised, that'll be pretty cool. And you'll be able to have several games on the go and be able to switch between them. I mean, if you're like me, I like to have more than one game on the go. I'm like that with books as well. I like a factual book and a fiction book or whatever. And I like this with games. I like to have different games because if I'm in a different mood, I might want to play something else. The other thing, we got a little bit more about hardware accelerated ray tracing, and there were some demos of that, but we already knew that was coming. It did look pretty impressive though. Again, I'll reserve judgment until I've actually had a chance to see it in action myself. But if they do deliver, again, it could be something that is going to make gaming more pleasurable, more enjoyable, all the rest of it. The thing that really got my juices flowing though was the talk about taking backwards compatibility to the next level, with HDR being implemented in old games. And I think there was a demo of Fusion Frenzy or something like that. And obviously we couldn't see it at home because, it was only Richard Leadbetter and the other people who actually got to see this in person. But apparently it was pretty impressive. So even games from the original Xbox era are going to be not brought up to date, because you can't really do that, but made to look better. And that will make people want to go back and play them even more. I know certainly that if a game looks better and, it's got that clean look that a modern game's got, up to a point, obviously, then it makes me want to go back and have a look at it, because I remember it being like that when I first played it. Obviously, our memories, tint things, and things look better in our memories than they did in reality. But now, they're actually going to look like how we remember them. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And the fact that it doesn't require any input from developers due to the fact that it's all being done using machine learning. And incidentally, I said I thought that this was all going to be done with machine learning. So I knew nothing, but, obviously I'm a psychic. So send me your money now and I'll read you your fortune. Seriously, though, you're going to have to excuse me while I get all kid in a toy shop for a moment, because that's freaking awesome. Old games looking a lot better and being able to go back and play them, through those rose-tinted glasses without needing the rose-tinted glasses. If it actually works in practice, it'll be one of the coolest things to come out of Redmond for years. And I hope Google are watching, because Google, that's how you use machine learning to make things better, not worse. Another standout for me was the new controller, and specifically the controller software. And it all seems to have been designed with the express intention of reducing input lag. And the best bit? Current Xbox controllers will be upgradable via a firmware update. So, you'll be able to use them and get these benefits as well without having to go out and buy a new controller, which is bloody brilliant. And frankly, I can't see Sony doing something like that. It's a really customer-friendly move and something I think Microsoft should be praised for. And look, they may not sell quite as many controllers early on because, people will be using their Xbox One controllers. But you can bet your bottom dollar that they're going to be releasing some special editions which idiots like me will be chomping at the bit for. Not to mention, we can see that Design Studio, or whatever it's called, is going to have the new controllers on there as well. Obviously, that's not been announced yet, but you'll get Design Studio versions of the Xbox Series X controller, and you'll be able to, make them how you see fit. So people will be able to customize and have their own controllers. So yeah, it's all good. And I'm really excited to see what these new controllers can do, and if the latency can be improved, and all the rest of it. And while we're talking about latency, Microsoft are even doing some deals or talking to TV companies to make it so that TVs automatically switch to game mode when they detect a console. Now, let's not get too carried away here, because obviously, as far as I can see it, I would imagine Sony will be doing the same thing. This is just going to be a technology that's going to be in both consoles. If it's not in the Sony console, I'll be very surprised. But, it is a good thing. The idea that playing a game and automatically having the TV switch over is great, because I've been doing a lot of stuff with messing around with lag and input latency on my TVs lately. And frankly, it's a pain in the arse to get the best input from your controllers to your TV. Can be a nightmare. So having the TV automatically detect the settings is great. But we need to take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt as well, because we need to be very careful with this. Because there's a question, and the question is, will I need to upgrade all my equipment? And the answer is, yeah, you will. These features are impressive, and I'm looking forward to them, but they're going to require HDMI 2.1, and not just HDMI 2.1 in your telly either. If you've got other components in the chain, like a home cinema amp, a soundbar, stuff like that, they're going to have to be HDMI 2.1 as well, because otherwise you're going to run into the problems that I've talked about in many videos about HDCP and HDMI and the problems that you can get when you're trying to put out the signal of HDMI 1.4 to an HDMI 2.0 TV and all the rest of it. It gets very complicated and very confusing and stops things working properly. So, while I'm really excited for these features and I can't wait to have a go with them, we shouldn't get too excited about them unless we've just won the lottery, as it's going to get very expensive to enjoy all of them. That's just the reality. But then, this is what happens whenever new tech comes out. There's always a situation where everything that you own is almost made redundant. Obviously, you can still use it, but you're not going to get all the new bells and whistles that comes with the new tech. So, we do have to be careful here. Obviously, though, that's not Microsoft's fault. They're making a console that's forward-looking and set for the future. And, we'll just have to either put up with having slightly fewer features because we're using older tech that isn't HDMI 2.1, or we'll have to shell out and buy the new products. And that's just the way it always is whenever new stuff comes along, as I say. The bottom line here is that Microsoft are really pushing things forward, and the information we've got is extremely exciting. The only thing we haven't heard much about is the new games. We've not had a great deal about the games that are coming to the system at launch, and certainly we don't know what's coming further down the line. We've got some ideas, obviously, but not a great deal. And this is one area where Xbox has lagged behind PlayStation in recent years. So we really do need the Series X to buck the trend of the last few years and launch with some really good games. I think most of us expect Halo, most of us expect Forza, but I'd like to see at least one new or revisited IP at launch as well. And they need to keep going with the games. We need to keep getting some new and interesting and exciting games, because this hardware is bloody impressive. And if it delivers what it promises to deliver, and it seems that it will, then it's going to be a great time to be a gamer, as long as we get the games to match the hardware. And that's something we didn't get with the Xbox One X, and we will need it with the Xbox Series X. So for now, I'm really excited. I cannot wait now to see this new console. But I do want to see some games that is going to, do it justice. But anyway, that's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we can hash it out down there. And don't forget to like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and ring the bloody bell, because otherwise you won't get notifications about any videos I put up. You know the drill. Anyway, I'm done. I'm going to go and grab myself a cup of tea, and I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Bye.